Hi guys, it's Mrs. Crewell. I wanted to do a read aloud with you since we haven't done read aloud in a while, and I wanted to start a new book for April, and our book is called Over the Moon. Some of you have already read this with Battle of the Books, and it's by Natalie Lloyd. It's a brand new book, and I wanted to share it with you. Chapter 1 is called Mally Ramble. Dust flights are trained to sense explosions in the down below. Honeysuckle is my papa's dust flight. It's a tiny yellow bird they give every miner in Coal Top. When I was a little girl, Honeysuckle brought me heaps of comfort as I watched Papa walk to the mines. I couldn't go with him to the down below, but our brave yellow bird could. She perched like a speck of plump sunshine on his shoulder. She'd coo lullabies in his ear if he got lonely. She could keep him safe. Papa hasn't been down below in more than a year now, but Honeysuckle stays right near him most of the time, until the work whistle blows. And that's when she floats down to Windy Valley to find me. Alloo! Alloo! Honeysuckle sings against the window. I run to the glass and raise it just a notch. A cool, dusty breeze carries her sweet bird song into the room, and the sound is a hint of home. And for a second, I forget I've been covered in dirt for hours. Honeysuckle snuggles her feathery face against the pane. I'm hurrying, I promise her, and she sings a chirpy tune to help me speed up cleaning Miss Tumbrel's floors. That's one of the reasons all the miners get a dust flight when they start to work at the down below. Their sweet presence helps you work faster. Here's another. The birds can warn the miners if they've gone too deep, or if they're about to find gold. Not that anybody finds much gold these days. Mostly, I believe the birds are a tactic that the guardians use to get kids to join up so young. In a town the color of dust, who wouldn't want a bright yellow bird to take them home every day? I stretch my stiff neck and clear a cluster of pops. The fingers on my left hand are clenched in cold rags, so I stretch them straight slowly, one by one. My hand will stay that way eventually, bent and clawed like I'm always clutching rags. Old maid's grip, mountain people call it. Honeysuckle taps the glass lightly with her beak, her way of telling me it's time to get out of my slop pile and get up the mountain. My mountain. If I miss the train, I'll have to walk to the top. I did that once, and I will never do it again. For as long as I've been alive and breathing, I've heard stories about monsters who roam the woods at night, and they used to think our parents made it all up just so that we'd stay close to home. But now I know better. Still, sometimes I wonder if walking through the monsters' woods is any worse than being around valley people. They can be monstrous too. These snooty folks who want their floors cleaned and toilets scrubbed and powder cakes made just so. I balance the bucket full of filthy water in the crook of my arm and haul it back to the kitchen, careful not to slosh it over the newly polished wood. My right arm ends just below my elbow, but I've never had a problem getting things done one-handed. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I think it'd be nice to have two grippy hands, especially when it comes to opening stuck windows, braiding hair faster, carrying this nasty muck bucket around. Scrubbing floors might go a little quicker maybe, but it doesn't matter. I was born this way, so I'm used to it. And besides, I'm a fast worker. I checked my pop snap to make sure it's secure. That's my fake arm, complete with a fake hand that I keep attached to my right elbow when I'm working in the valley. This way you'll blend right in, the valley doctor told me. It's a universal color that fits everybody. The thing is, pop snaps only come in pale orange. And I've met all kinds of people who look all kinds of different ways, but I've never met a single soul that's orange. I spin around quickly when the front door squeals open. This is payday, and there's nothing that makes me prouder than giving my family the money I've earned for all of us. Papa, Mama, and my little brother Denver. We need this more than ever today. We have to have this today. Money's not just running low for us Rambles. Our money has flat run out. The front door slams shut, and 4 kids, wild as mountain chickens, run screaming across the floor I just mopped. I lurch forward and nearly yell, "Quit it!" But the words stop inside me. Be gentle, Mama always tells me. Be gentle in the valley. That's her polite way of telling me not to get so fired up down here, not to argue, not to disobey, and I get it. It's all the income my family has now. I have to keep this job. So I clutch my apron, bite my tongue, and just watch the ruckus. The Tumbrel kids stomp red clay clusters and clots of grass all over my handiwork. Their mother, Miss Tumbrel, saunters through behind them, bracelets jangling. She clutches her velvet skirt and lifts it, trying to avoid her offspring's sloshy path of yuck. She snarls at the mess on the floor and then looks at my elbow, at my pop snap. I worry you aren't capable of the work, Mally, she says with a fake concern. Finding another mountain girl might be best for us both. Perhaps you'd be better suited for other chores. No, I'm perfectly capable. I try to sound calm and submissive, gentle, like Mama says. But I'm not a gentle soul. I'm still learning many things about myself, but I already know this much. I'm wild and brave inside, a fire popper in a glass jar. And some days I can't help but spark a little. Some days my heart is a raging fire. Don't misunderstand me, sweetie, you are an inspiration. I bite my tongue so hard I wonder if it might fall off. Miss Tumbrel knows only 2 things about me. My name, Mally Ramble, and that I have a pop snap where part of my arm should be. Neither one of those things makes me inspirational. She's only saying this because my arm looks different from hers. This is called pity, and pity feels like an insult. Words leap off my tongue before I can cage them. If your children hadn't what? One black inked eyebrow arches at me. I gulp, trapping the words I really want to speak back into my heart. They must not have realized that I just finished these floors. They tracked mud all over the place. She cocks her head at me, thinking, does she really not believe I'm capable of scrubbing stupid floors? She saunters close enough to peer down her long, regal nose at me. I'll keep you on, Mally, because I am a good woman. But some advice. Having high spirits will make it hard for you to find another employer. And you already have your loss working against you. She glances at my right arm again and clears her throat. She's always looking at my pop snap, just flat out staring at it. I get having a little bit of curiosity about people. I'm curious myself, but she can't even make eye contact with me. Sometimes I imagine pulling it off, throwing it at her so she could have a good long look at it and be done with it. Here now, for your work, and she drops 2 feathers' worths in my hand. That's only 2 days' wages. She hasn't paid me in a week. Miss Tumbrel, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this is the wrong amount I earned. I decide what you earn. Remember that before you unleash your temper again. And anyway, these are hard times. Miss Tumbrel flutters her eyelashes dramatically. They look like little ink bats, flapping all over her lying eyes, because I see the velvet bags of goods she brings in every day. The new dresses she wears, it's not that the Tumbrels don't have enough money. They just don't feel like paying me. But the words, yes, ma'am, float out of my mouth, and the coins make a dull jangling sound when I drop them in my apron pocket. "Finish this before you leave," she says dismissively, waving at the floor, and walks away. No time to grumble, so I lean in to the day. Buckets refilled, knees grounded. Lean in, Millie, lean in. Finish strong, finish proud. I don't see the shiny brown boots of my enemy until they're right in front of me, tracking more sloshy lines of mud and crud across the floor. Chapter 2, Open Windows. "Better hurry, Cold Top." Miss Tumbrel's oldest son, Honor, stares down at me. If I didn't know Honor so well, I'd believe that girls in class used to say about him that he's storybook beautiful, with pale hair, tan skin, and pretty eyes. But I do know him, and I've picked enough apples from the orchard in Cold Top to know that what looks shiny on the outside can be rotten to the core. This is why looks don't mean a feather's worth to me. Looks tell you nothing about a person's soul. He smirks and rests his hands on a spiraled handle of the shiny sword strapped around his waist. It's a gift from his parents, in case he ever has to fight the monsters, they said. Ha! It's all I can do not to laugh out loud just thinking about the scenario. Honor Trumbull would only use one thing if he got close to a monster: his running shoes. Still, he's been showing off his sword for weeks. He probably holds it when he sleeps. "You don't want to walk through those monster woods alone, do you?" He continues, leaning closer. "They might eat you." He glances at my pop snap. "Well, what's left of you, at least." I pull my rag from the bucket and wring it out on his shoes. "What the—" My mistake," I said sweetly. He glares at me, eyes shining with menace. "Remember what we used to call you in school before you had to quit? We called you the Mountain Pirate. Maybe you should get a hook next time instead of a pop snap." I fight not to hide my arm from Honor's mean gaze. I'm not ashamed of my body. Not any part of it. But that doesn't change the hurt when he teases me. It takes effort to fold my arms in my lap casually and pretend his words didn't settle inside me. I look him square in the face. "I do remember. That's what you called me the May Day races last year when you were beside me at the starting lane. Just before I outran you." Slowly he crouches down until we're closer. Too close. Eye to eye. And just as he's about to speak, a shiny blue piece of paper slips from his pocket, swooping on the floor, where dark water stains spread from the corners. "Are you still brave enough to dream? Wanted. Brave and wiry young fellers." Honor snatches it away before I could read the rest. "That's not for your eyes, mountain girl." He grins as he shoves it into his jacket pocket. "It's for somebody going places, not a girl covered in slop water." I close my eyes against the inevitable, and Honor kicks the dirty bucket so it sloshes all over my dress and all over the floor. "Take my clothes home and wash them." He drops a stinky bag of laundry in my lap and walks away, smiling. Honor's rotten mom buys him new clothes every week, but he still gives me his dirty laundry to take home and mend. "See you tomorrow, Mally in the muck." Angry tears, tired tears, warble in my eyes as I refill the bucket again and lean back into work. I want to scream, so I decide to sing instead. Well, first I look around to make sure nobody's within earshot. Singing is not allowed in the valley or in the mountain, not unless you're a bird. Even the guardians can't control wild things like dust flights, like me. Singing could be deadly in the mountain, they say. We'll take in too much dust, but I'm not in the mountain right now, so I keep my voice soft and low. Mountain girl, lift up your eyes. The stars are shining bright for thee. Reach out and take the silver cord, braid beautiful now for all to see. Honeysuckle chirps madly at me at the window, flapping her wings against the glass. Her wing tips make little dot prints all along the dusty pane. At first I think she wants to zoom inside and peck Honor's eyes out, and I wish she would. But then I realize she's trying to get my attention. I suck in a quick breath, and I realize why. Something nearly invisible, the size of a feather, floats in through the open window. It's flat as a ripped piece of paper, crisscrossed with hundreds of tiny veins of color. Just the sight of it makes me catch my breath. A star patch. They're so rare these days, I think my tired eyes must be playing tricks on me. Star patches are leftover beauty from a better time, a time way before I came along. So here's the story I know. Years ago, before the dust came and covered the skies, mountain people took starlight and wove it into cloth, clothes and blankets and spangled capes. Those dreaming clothes settled over weary shoulders, giving them adventure and hope and peace as they slept. And the dream settled over the sleepless and reminded them tomorrow would be better, even if today broke their hearts. The ability to weave starlight would be magic enough all by itself, but there was a better magic than that even. A better than best magic, we called it, but we never talk about that anymore. Some memories, even sweet ones, are too painful to discuss. The ending is always the same anyway. The dust swept over us and snuffed out the stars. People claim they've seen patches of light here and there floating in a forgotten breeze. Maybe there's light left over, they say. Maybe sometimes the light finds a way through. I reach up gently, and I take the bright patch between my muddy fingers and flatten it against my palm. This is how starlight feels. Cool like wind, soft as a feather, special as a spoken wish. And my little brother will love this, I decide. He'll be as happy as I am now. There's a little piece of bright magic still floating through this dark world. The star patch pulses so bright against my hand that I feel like it's alive somehow. A solid thought settles immediately in my heart. As I'm sure I know my name, I also know this much is true. I am still brave enough to dream. Chapter 3. Familiar Faces. The light dims low in the valley, spreading shadows all around town as I run for the train station. There's not much light around here to start with. The dust has covered the sky, blocking the sun and the stars. And for as long as I've been alive, that's 12 years. But the dust stretches back several years before that. We only know that sun is setting when dim gets dimmer, and then so dark that the world looks swallowed up whole. As I scramble through the muddy streets of Windy Valley, the firelight lamps flicker awake. I pull the scarf around my neck up to my nose and see folks as I pass do the same. Clouds of dust settle thick in the valley when the night presses in. The dust weighs on you if you breathe in too much of it. But it doesn't do any good complaining. That's what Mama told me when I first groaned about working for the tumbrils here in the valley. And then she taught me this trick. When the present situation is abysmal, you go someplace else in your heart. So I rethink it that way. I might look like Mally in the muck, but in the heart, I'm Mally over the moon, flying to worlds unseen on wings made of star patches. I bust up the dust. I smash it. I bring back the light, and the better than best things that went away with it. Alloo, alloo! Honeysuckle pecks my cheek soft as a kiss and grabs my attention before I run through a mud puddle. Goodbye, Honeysuckle, I tell her, and we make our way through the busy streets towards the train stop. Mountain girl, lift up your eyes. The stars are shining bright for thee. I hum the old mountain tune as I pass a row of stores. The star patch flickers like butterfly wings in my pocket. Star goods used to sparkle brightly from the shop windows here. The brightest things in the valley now are the roofs of the guardians' houses. Those are the men chosen to care for us. Pointy golden spires are affixed to the corners of their copper-plated roofs, like rusted crowns scattered over the valley. The house with the tallest spires belongs to Mr. Mortimer Good. He's the great head guardian of the mountain and the valley. I've never seen the man. Most people haven't, but we've heard all about him. Mortimer has slain more monsters than any guardian in history. Little kids pretend to be him, using sticks for swords when they battle in the streets. I pretend to be him too sometimes. The train hasn't arrived yet, so I duck around the corner of the building and slink down against the ground for some rest. This is my favorite hiding place. I can see everything happening on the platform. Close my tired eyes. Cough when the wind blows a sheet of thick dust past my face. 2 feathers worth. The weight in my hand is nearly nothing, almost as light as the weight in the starlight in my pocket. The money won't last us a week. Tears burn the back of my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. I'll send Mama into a frenzy if I walk in crying like a mess. She has enough to worry about. Smudge-faced kids from the valley mines are showing up on the platforms now, all sleepy-eyed, with yellow birds perched on their shoulders. They're waiting for the train that takes us an hour's ride back to the top. I stay hidden, but strain my neck, hoping to see a face I've dearly missed. And there he is. The sound of Adam Payton's voice is an arrow. It shoots through the cloud, all sharp and sweet, and hits me square in the heart. I bounce up on my tiptoes to get a better look at him. He's standing tallest in the center of a group of boys. Hat crooked sideways on his head, just like he used to wear it. Scarf looped around his face too, green and frayed. Not too thin to be much of a barrier in the dust. A small, happy heart radiates in my chest. That's the same ratty old scarf I made for him winter holidays 2 years ago. Adam has been my friend for as long as I can remember, but we haven't spoken in almost a year. That's common, Mama tells me. Some friends, even the most wonderful, are only meant to be in your life for one season. But I don't care for that way of thinking, mostly because I thought my story would always be tangled with my best friend's story. And now I miss him so bad my heart aches. The boys are dressed in drab overalls and covered in coal dust. This is probably why the flicker of blue in their midst catch their eye. Adam's holding a blue flyer like the one Honor Trumbull had, and all the boys are looking at it, whispering over it. They look so fired up about the thing, my brain's practically burning with curiosity. I should say something. I should call out Adam's name. So what if it's been a year? We're still best friends, aren't we? The scream of the train startles me, drowning out the voice of the boys on the platform. A small, familiar face looks frantically from one of the windows. That face is looking for me, and it's my favorite face in the whole world. It's Denver. As the night and the cold presses around us, the train circles slowly toward the town on the tip of Forgotten Mountain, Coal Top. I always imagine this train looking like a big steel snake, hissing as it climbs, bright eyes beaming into the darkness. And we're all here stuck in the belly of the beast. The night wind howls as it blows against the steel, and a lantern swings from the ceiling at the front of our train car, sending firelight flickers across our faces with every jolt. I glance down at my little brother Denver and pull him closer to me. Mama let him ride the train down to pick me up. That was a fine idea. His face made me feel even happier than a star patch. And as soon as I saw Denver's face, I forgot about everything that hurt. Denver's hair is curly, soft as a dandelion fluff. Wishing clocks of it is what Mom calls dandelions. That's a fitting way to think of my brother, too. so small and magical to me, a wish come true. And from the first time I saw him, I knew I'd never love any person more than I love Denver Ramble. He's 7 now, nearly 8, and Denver is still at the Coal Top School, which is a reason I'm not. Once Papa got hurt, one of us had to go to work. They've sent young children into the mines before, even small, scrawny 7-year-olds like Denver. But that won't happen to him. I'll make sure of it. The thought of Denver crawling around for hours in darkness makes me ache bone deep. He's chirped about the view all the way up the mountain, his voice softening as honeysuckle settles in his lap for a nap. I could see 6 mountains from the dust on the way down, he says. Do you remember their names? I asked. Denver drew peaks in the dust on the windows, and he recited the familiar rhymes. There's Mount Carson, pink but defiant. The mighty Pembers are smoky giants. The lightning ridge will scissor and slay. Only the truly brave will stay. The bogs are so squishy, mountain mirrors so bright, that old timber will give you a fright. He pauses, chewing his lip. That's all I can remember. That's a lot, I tell him, and those are the closest anyway. Well done. Do you remember how the rhyme ends? All tipped in gold, they all called to see. Such beauty for the brave to see. Denver's chest is puffed in pride as he finishes my sentence. I loved learning mountain lore when I was his age too. I used to love the view from the train. I'd imagine being a brave explorer, climbing from the train on every known peak, discovering where it lies past. But nobody leaves Coal Top or Windy Valley. Sudden and violent clouds of dust can rustle up anywhere, anytime. Plus, the climbs are too treacherous. The way is too dark. And to say nothing of the monsters that roam at night, here the guardians keep us safe. I'm glad Mama let you come down to ride with me, I tell him, comforted by the warm weight of him against me. Promise me you'll never get off the train to look for me if I don't make it to the platform. You ride back up, okay? You promise too. His voice is small and steady in the darkness. Don't talk alone in the night ever again. I don't want the monsters to hurt you. A shiver rolls over my shoulders, and I can't help but glance outside. The darkness is ashy pitch, pressing up against the window. Are shadows moving around there? Or is it just the lights of the train making it seem that way? The dark and the dust are so thick together that I can't see into the woods surrounding us. I don't know exactly what you're watching, stalking us, but I know it got close to me once, and I know I never want it to happen again. Mally, Denver says my name. Tell me about what it was like before the monsters came. I nod. Stories are a fine way to pass the time, so I begin the sweetest tale I know. Many years ago, the mountain people weren't afraid to walk at night. Night was their favorite time. In fact, there were no monsters in the wood back then. There was no dust in the air. Forgotten Mountain was a very different place. It had a different name for starters. It was called Bright Mountain. And what made it so bright wasn't the sun, even though it shined gold and glittering back at them. It was bright because the stars loved us, and we loved them. Mountain people could weave dreams from starlight. Tell me why they did this. Tell me the better than best thing of all, he whispers. I speak low in a reverent whisper. They say that each night the weavers would wait in the mountain peak. Wait until a warm gust of wind announced the arrival of starbirds. They were horses, huge and wild, and shiny metal manes, and wings that shivered in the night. That they would land on the mountain, and when the weavers would, young and old, anybody brave enough could climb on the backs and sail into the sky. Denver smiles a crooked grin. The weavers went soaring, collecting those long beams of starlight, those patches of stardust, gathering and weaving and sometimes volleying the light back and forth to one another. Mama says that we were the kings and queens of the mountain. The horses love the mountain people, children especially. and they used to come and play with him in the woods, carrying them through the forest. Denver Ramble keeps a near constant shadow of a smile on his face. The dimple in his cheek is always there, ready to deepen. The tilt of his mouth is always up, aimed for a grin. But his smile fades into a flat line when he finishes the story that he knows all too well. And then the dust swept over us, and that's all we know too well. The stars were snuffed out, and those beautiful creatures flew away. I hope they flew somewhere good. And for a time we sit in silence, rocking in rhythm as the train churns upward, mooring a memory we never got to experience. It's not just the wonder of it all that we wish we still had. Without the starry coats to wear, dreaming not only is as easy as it used to be. We all have nightmares now, and the dust can weigh you down if you let it. Our hearts are more fearful than peaceful. I believe they'll come back someday, Denver says suddenly, his voice chirpy and sweet like always, but his chin is high and his jaw is set. They'll come back. They'll find a way through the dust. The star patch in my pocket flickers wildly.